The police's latest quarterly crime statistics show that over 900 women and around 350 children were killed between October and December last year. It says the country grapples with a prosecution of perpetrators of gender-based violence, while to unpack just what is being done to address some of the challenges in the system, we're joined by the Deputy Justice Minister, John Jeffrey. Minister Jeffrey, good evening to you tonight. Thank you so much for your time. Of course, these statistics follow hot off the back of other figures that came to light this past week about a backlog of 15,000 cases before the criminal justice system that have not been attended to, that involve sexual crimes. It really is a horrible situation if you are a victim or a survivor of these crimes.
Yes, indeed. Good evening, Kathy, and good evening to the viewers. The statistics were regarding sexual offences, particularly in the regional courts. And unfortunately there, a lot of the problem, well, we've obviously had the overall problem of COVID, of court sitting for shorter periods, for courts not being able to sit when somebody gets infected, those kinds of things. Then there's been a more recent problem of problems with the maintenance contracts of the court recording technology machines and the sexual offences court equipment, which has been rectified, but there still seems to be a backlog by the service provider in terms of fixing those machines. But it's something of great concern and something that we're working hard in trying to get fixed.
Ultimately, the message that it sends to, again, women who are in the instances, women, children, or people who are, the survivors and the victims of these attacks, the message it sends to them is that the criminal justice system cannot be trusted with their cases, because the other issue that rights groups have been raising is the level at which they're seeing people now withdraw some of their cases simply because of these waiting times and these backlogs.
Yeah, I haven't seen any specific statistics on the withdrawals. But as far as the criminal justice system, it might take its time, but it does function. If you look in particular at some of the sentences, the conviction rates, the sentences imposed on people for both sexual offences and for murders. So those are quite heavy.
But of course, it comes as little satisfaction for those who are waiting for their cases to even go through the court process. So what are some of the solutions that the department is working on now?
Well, the issue obviously is to get everything up and running, and things are easier now with COVID being to a large extent in recess at this stage. But it's issues of getting things up and running, ensuring that the equipment is working. If it is not working, to look at other methods. So, for example, in a couple of places, KZN in the Free State, where there have been problems with the equipment from a child testifying from a separate testifying room, laptops have been used to convey the image and to convey to relay the feed between the parties, between the court and the witness. So there are things like that. We are also looking at there are specific courts which seem to be having more of a problem than other courts. So it's a question of getting to grips with what the problems are in those courts and ensuring that the backlog can be reduced there. In other places, there's less of a backlog. So there's a whole range of issues. There's also the question of ensuring that blockages within the system are eradicated between the different role players. So there's a number of factors.
Of course, part of what we also see, and I speak more broadly here when I talk about the criminal justice system, is that some of the latest data, again, that has been looked at, looking at the femicide rate in the country, is that while it has decreased over, you know, a 20-year period, what we are still seeing is that when it comes to the prosecution of these cases, we still have a case of missing dockets and, you know, killings of women that go unaccounted for.
Look, the dockets issue is something that both the prosecution and the police are working on, also ensuring that dockets should be digitized where possible. As far as having somebody to prosecute, that would largely depend on, well, not largely, that would depend entirely on the evidence that the police are able to gather against the accused person. So obviously, if somebody is killed and there are no witnesses and there is no other incriminating evidence in the form of DNA or blood or things like that, then it is more difficult to prosecute somebody for that crime.
Minister, do you agree that this is an unacceptable situation that we have in our hands here, and that the women of this country are actually being let down by the justice system?
Kathy, we have a lot of challenges. Those challenges are from many times circumstances outside of our control, such as COVID. Obviously, that was going to cause quite an extensive backlog. It's not acceptable that witnesses, victims, survivors have to wait a long time to have their case prosecuted. But we're doing all that we can to ensure that those problems are overcome and the system works better.
Given the fact that we already know the challenges of getting, you know, crimes, gender-based violence or related crimes through the courts, was there no other way? So I hear the reason that you're giving, that, you know, COVID was a surprise on everyone. But was there no other way that things could have turned out? Should we just accept that this was effectively inevitable?
Well, nobody expected COVID. It came. The courts had to adapt to quite a large extent, and did, in terms of moving more into the virtual realm. So those are positive aspects. But obviously, it's the same as some other natural disaster, and COVID is being treated as a natural disaster. They happen, and you've then got to do the best you can to overcome the problems.
Deputy Justice Minister John Jeffrey, let's leave it there for tonight. All right, still ahead on News at Prime, we're going to be taking a look at the global energy crisis and what it means for South Africans, particularly with some of the increases that we're likely to see. Do stay with us.